Thank you, Madam Speaker. Since being elected to this House a year and a half ago, I've repeatedly asked the Transport Minister and Transport Canada to address the pollution, noise, and environmental damage caused by the interim protocol freighter anchorages in the Southern Gulf Islands. The Minister knows what the problem is. I want to talk about solutions to solve the inefficiencies at the Port of Vancouver. Container shipments from that port are highly efficient. Bulk freighters should be as well. There are busy ports in other countries where this problem is non-existent. For years, the Port of Newcastle in Australia had the same problem. In 2007, on some days, there were reports of as many as 70 freighters anchored outside their port waiting to load. In June of that year, a ship dragged anchor and ran aground on a popular beach. The public outcry following that incident led to a review of the situation, and the Port of Newcastle no longer has a freighter anchorage problem. They implemented a vessel arrival system. Ships must contact the port 14 days before they arrive. They can be instructed to slow down in order to match their arrival to their loading time at the port. The Port of Newcastle went from ships being at anchor for an average of 11 days to 64% of ships not anchoring at all. The remaining 36% averaged just 3 days at anchor. Rotterdam, the biggest port in Europe, does not have an anchorage problem. They have a just-in-time system. Ships are contracted in advance and instructed to travel at slower speeds to arrive when there is space for them to enter port. Slower transit times not only reduce greenhouse gas emissions because the ships burn less bunker fuel, it also lowers pollution near the port and populated areas. Currently, the Port of Vancouver does not mandate contact from ships until they are 2 days away from the port. By that time, it is too late to change their arrival time. Once a ship with a contract to load goods arrives in Canadian waters, anchorages must be provided. One piece of the freighter traffic problem is the increase in shipments of U.S. thermal coal through the Port of Vancouver. Washington, Oregon, and California refuse to expand their coal ports, so U.S. coal companies are shipping through Canada. This needs to end. Thermal coal is burned to produce electricity. Here in Canada, we are shutting down coal-fired power plants. We recognize they have no place in our energy future. If the government is serious about climate action, it should ban the export of both Canadian and U.S. thermal coal. Canadian grain shipments from the Port of Vancouver have grown by 6% per year. Inefficiencies in the grain supply and the inability to load grain in rainy weather are resulting in ships sitting at anchor for extended periods. It should interest many members of this House that costs associated with these delays at the Port of Vancouver are partially passed on to Canadian grain farmers. Farmers pay for these inefficiencies through the shipping component of their contracts, which is subtracted from the price of their grain. I hope this will motivate cross-party and cross-country collaboration to lobby the government to mandate improvements at the Port of Vancouver. The creation of good regulations and policy will drive innovation as it has in Australia and Europe. There is no legitimate reason why the Port of Vancouver should be so far behind in efficient management of its bulk shipping. Thank you.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Transport.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. And first, I'd like to apologize. It is bedtime here for my two toddlers, and if there's some crying in the distance, I do apologize. But I'd like to thank the Honourable Member from Nanaimo, Ladysmith, for his question and the opportunity to further discuss this issue. As a trading nation, the marine transportation system is key to Canada's continued economic and social well-being, and anchorages are an integral part of safe navigation. Transport Canada recognizes that anchorage usage at the Port of Vancouver, Canada's largest port, and in the Southern Gulf Islands has been steadily increasing over the past decade. The general trend in anchoring time in southern British Columbia has been increasing by about 4% each year since 2011. This is largely due to trade growth through Canada's Asia-Pacific Gateway and record export volumes in Canadian natural resources. With this steady growth in vessel activity, there's been a rise in concerns and frustrations from Indigenous groups and coastal communities in the region. Transport Canada has heard concerns with noise and lights from vessels at anchor, as well as broader socio-environmental concerns, and implications for Indigenous fish harvesting and cultural activities. Transport Canada is aware that the incidents cited by the honourable member involving freighters dragging anchor are very real examples that demonstrate the need for action and greater efficiencies in the marine transportation system. This is why Transport Canada is examining the anchorage issue under the Oceans Protection Plan. This is a complex issue. As part of the ongoing work, Transport Canada has conducted analysis on anchorage congestion and usage, and the results clearly indicate multiple factors are contributing to the dynamic that we observe in southern British Columbia. These factors include supply chain disruptions, weather, operations, as well as the growing demand in Asia that I cited earlier, which has led to an increase in exports of commodities from the Vancouver-Fraser Port Authority. Factors such as these can have cascading effects on supply chain performance, which lead to coordination challenges, ultimately resulting in vessel congestion and increased anchorage use and transits. Under the Ocean Protections Plan, Canada is taking a multi-pronged approach aimed at mitigating the impacts of vessels at anchor. It is doing so by exploring the ways to reduce anchorage use and transit by commercial vessels, as well as change in behavior of vessels while they are at anchor. Supporting active traffic management measures to promote gateway fluidity, including collaborative supply chain visibility efforts, and taking Indigenous and socio-environmental considerations into account with a view at reducing the impacts of anchorages on local communities. As Transport Canada works to develop solutions to anchorage management in the Southern Gulf Islands, a range of information from Indigenous and local communities, industry, and supply chain actors is being considered carefully. In addition, Transport Canada is examining the legal, operational, and commercial considerations that have bearing on anchorage practices and management. At present, Transport Canada's goal is to not only address anchorage congestion, but also look towards new effective efficiencies to promote greater fluidity while maintaining navigational safety. As work continues on this complex issue, concrete actions are being taken today to address this situation. Examples include the interim protocol that serves to promote a more balanced approach to anchorage in the Southern Gulf Islands, as well as joint efforts with the Vancouver-Fraser Port Authority under the Supply Chain Visibility Project. This project is working to improve the efficiency of the multimodal transportation network, enhance transportation infrastructure safety, and improve and optimize the connectivity of intermodal efficiencies. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
The honourable member for Nanaimo, Ladysmith.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'd like to thank the Parliamentary Secretary for his response, but the Oceans Protection Plan National Anchorage Strategy has been in place for 3 years, and the problem has only gotten worse. Environmental and cost considerations should be enough motivation to fix this situation. It is not acceptable to wait for another collision, the beaching of a vessel, or a fuel spill to take action. The solutions exist and will improve environmental conditions, reduce disruptions to communities, and lower greenhouse gas emissions. Implementing solutions will also result in more money in the pockets of prairie grain farmers. It's time for Transport Canada to mandate efficiencies at the Port of Vancouver. Strong regulations that ensure peak coordination between exporters and shipping companies are the solution required to address the root causes of the freighter anchorage problem in the Southern Gulf Islands. Thank you.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Canada's strong marine safety system has improved significantly over the last 25 years and continues to improve through the Ocean Protections Plan. We are committed to the continuous improvement of this system. To respond to community concerns about anchorages, an interim protocol on the use of the southern British Columbia anchorage was introduced in 2018. The protocol puts in place measures to reduce the impacts of large vessels at anchor outside port authorities and remains in effect. Thanks to this work, residents can now contact the Vancouver-Fraser Port Authority Operations Centre when they have concerns about noise, lights from vessels at anchor, and provide details by completing an online form. Transport Canada officials continue to work closely with the port on this matter to help ensure concerns are addressed. Thank you, Madam Speaker.